Hi, everybody. Welcome. Well, what shall we say? We woke up to a new day today, and overnight so much have changed, yet so little. For the first time in 14 years, the Conservative Party is not in charge in England. Instead, the British, for all intents and purposes, woke up to a Labour government this morning. And I don't know what to say to you, but I guess congratulations is in order. The voting went off without a hitch, and as from about 11:30 my time last night, the results started coming in quickly, one after the other. Very efficient, very smooth, and that in itself deserves applause. I've been out of politics and completely distanced myself from it for years now as a matter of self-preservation, because I used to get very heated, very angry and upset. And as someone who suffered a TIA at 54, that is the last thing I need in my life. Although I get a little irritable at times, I try not to get angry or too worked up. But over the last week or so, I decided to catch up a bit, and I have to admit that there is so much which does not make sense that I almost feel lost in the maze of politics. Like this morning, I was reading an article and two reports on American sanctions or discussions on sanctions against South Africa because of certain trade agreements between South Africa and China. Yet, this is the opening paragraph to a report in the website of the American Council on Foreign Relations, updated on May 14th, 2024, and I quote, United States trade with China has grown enormously in recent decades, and it is crucial for both countries. Today, China is one of the largest export markets for United States goods and services, and the United States is the top export market for China. Really? So, according to the current United States government, it is okay for America to trade with China, but God forbid anyone else does. Then they will threaten sanctions and military action. Anyway, let me stay calm. Something else which I actually find hilarious is that, as you may know, South Africa is one of the BRICS nations. Originally, BRICS stood for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates had since joined. But never mind, we are all aware of Britain and America's stance towards Russia, yet South Africa is still part of the Commonwealth of Nations as well. Just one example. Now, isn't that a bit of a contradiction? A bit of a joke, really? Or am I wrong? I find it a bit two-faced and duplicitous. I mean, decide which side of the fence you are on and stick to it. Anyway, guys, I think I better stick to the royals on this channel. For the past 7 years, my personal paradise had been behind my front door, because what is on the other side of it sometimes become too much for me to handle. The royals are my hobby, and in a way the yardstick I use to measure the general health of the world. And quite frankly, if I continue to use the royals as a yardstick, I have no option but to think and feel that the world is not exactly in a very good state. I mean, we have two members of the senior royal family who are really physically not healthy. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean sick, ill with cancer. And then we have Meghan and Harry, who is like a stain. No, I mean, they are like a festering boil on the arse of the royal family and the whole of England's image and reputation. And you think I'm disgusting by saying that? No, no, no. I am using Harry's own words against him. Remember him calling Rebecca Brooks a festering pustule on the arse of humanity? Well, my dears, it takes one to know one. Harry and Meghan is all of that and more when it comes to the royal family. We all now know that Harry tampered with evidence in his case against the Sun for alleged phone hacking. Yes, no, destroyed evidence. Tampered with evidence, I mean, legally, same difference. Potentially something which can come with quite serious charges if you are an average Joe, a normal citizen, and not the son of a king. So, in light of that, let me read you extracts from the Universal Human Rights Charter, Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Article 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere do I see that there are exceptions being made for the runaway son of a king. Nowhere. Yes, indeed, if Judge Fancourt should decide to have Harry prosecuted for destroying evidence, it will create a constitutional issue. But I truly beg to differ from Lady C in that I would not call it a constitutional crisis. What crisis? If Harry is found guilty of a criminal offence, whether minor or major, and he is removed from the line of succession, the Constitution and law of succession makes it very clear that it does not automatically mean that his children will or has to be removed. The children are a whole different matter, which at some point also need to be addressed. But under the current rule of succession as amended in 2013, they will not automatically be removed unless their lawful guardian petitions the British government to do so, or they are found to be ineligible for whatever reason. Like I said, an entirely different matter. But I digress. Will Judge Fancourt do anything about Harry's indiscretion? Will he have Harry charged? Will he fine him even more? Will he act at all? Last week I would have, and I did, say no. This week, not so sure. He may very well put on his fair judge boots and do so. We know that the King met with constitutional experts just over a week ago, and I believe all the rumours were actually true. Yes, it was about the election, and yes, it was about the monarchy's role in the future government, and yes, it was about his son, Harry, because he knew, his top aides knew, we all knew that it was very likely that the next government would be a Labour government under Keir Starmer. And just like we all know that although Keir Starmer vowed not to petition or work towards getting rid of the monarchy, but instead to, for now, maintain the status quo, we also know that a Labour government is not a pro-monarchy government. I discussed this with friends of mine who are British, and I've heard a lot of different rhetoric. And yes, I know Britain had a Labour government before. Gordon Brown, 2007 until 2010, and Tony Blair, 1997 until 2007. But I think that Keir Starmer is taking over the running of a very different Britain from the one Gordon Brown handed over to the Conservatives in 2010. The entire population dynamic is different. I was in England in 2008 and again in 2014, and I could already see and feel the change in dynamic in 2014. Now it is a whole different country, almost a whole different world, a world in which Sir Keir Starmer cannot afford to allow any unfairness or discrimination under his watch, particularly not in his judiciary and courts. Remember, the Human Rights Charter states we are all equal under the law, and Sir Keir Starmer announced loud and proud that as Prime Minister he will work for the benefit of the people. So he cannot allow favoritism to be shown to Harry in any way, son of a monarch or not. So you see, the other rhetoric which I heard from my British acquaintances, namely that Harry is not that important and the Prime Minister has lots of more important things to do and pay attention to, etc., is not exactly 100% true, because the matter of Harry and his lawsuits have now become a matter of principle, a matter of law, and a matter of image. I doubt it would be beneficial for the new government or the monarchy to show weakness at this point in any way, shape, or form. I have no idea how this is going to play out in the long term, but I think that whoever is currently advising William has a brilliant, absolutely magnificent feel for the current political climate. Firstly, it has been a while now that we've seen William taking a very different route and a very different attitude from his father when he was Prince of Wales. William is 100% less confrontational, 100% less controversial, 100% more hands-on, 100% more down-to-earth, and far less elitist, 100% more discreet when it comes to finances and spending, 100% less extravagant, and far, far more inclined to put his money where his mouth is. We obviously know that projects like Earthshot and Homeward have sponsors and contributors and partners, but William has also contributed privately, particularly Earthshot, to which he contributed largely in its first year. Most recently, William and Catherine also made a private contribution or donation to support victims of Hurricane Beryl. You see, William seemed to have inherited his mother's genuine empathy, completely aside from what his job actually is or requires. Now, I fully agree with that, but I also think that behind the scenes, someone is reminding him about the optics. For example, I can hear someone saying to him, well, not in the exact words, but, bro, you can't go build an upper middle class Poundland when there are so many homeless in the country. or in the county of which you hold the title. Bro, you have to be humble and be seen to take care of the poor and the vulnerable. And aside from his natural instinct, William appears to be listening. Charles is an old-fashioned king. William is a diplomat and a statesman. And I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but in my opinion, this is the way to go. The only way in which the monarchy can survive. The, in my opinion, old-fashioned notion that the royal family contributes so much to tourism is a little, I don't know how to actually say this. Let's just say not exactly true. Tourists will still go see the castles, whether the royal family live in them or not. Currently, the Crown Estate controls all the properties which the royal family do not live in from time to time. It is a condition of their occupancy, so to speak, that the royal household manage and maintain the properties they occupy, like Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. But make no mistake, they do not pay for it all, even if it is made to look that way. You see, go Google who pays for the maintenance of Buckingham Palace or who is paying for the renovation of Buckingham Palace, and you will find the many, many leading articles stating it is paid from the sovereign grant, which is calculated from the profit of the Crown Estate. In other words, or in silly, let's say, street talk, Charles's salary paid to him by the state. But what they do not tell you is that when the renovating and refurbishment of Buckingham Palace started, it was estimated that the work would cost about £370 million. So yes, the Queen's salary and now King Charles's is indeed paying for it. But when the work started, and to this very day, the work was funded by an increase in the sovereign grant. But I digress once again. In reality, the Crown Estate or the government could just as well have paid for it themselves instead of paying it out to the sovereign grant first. So as far as attracting tourists goes, it's only the major royal events like, say, a royal wedding, for instance, or maybe Trooping the Colour, where the royal family themselves are the tourist attractions. And you see, I think William knows it. I think William understands that to maintain the status quo, to retain and preserve the monarchy, they have to be seen to serve, to work towards or for the greater good. William seemed to understand that the monarchy needs to remain relevant and a financially viable entity. And therefore, we are also seeing him appointing someone like Sir David Lewis, the former boss of Tesco. Now, I'll be very honest with you. With William and his team at the helm, I do not fear for the royal family and the monarchy, not even under Sir Keir Starmer and the modern Labour government. But under King Charles and with the perpetual embarrassment of Harry and Meghan, I do fear for the monarchy. People are fed up with being treated like the unwashed masses, while the rich and famous get away with virtually everything. There is a turning of the tide, and those who don't recognize it will be swept away by it. And on that happy note, I need to leave you. Remember, this video contains my opinion, and my opinion only based on research I have done. I urge you to do your own research and form your own opinion. And it is okay if your opinion differs from mine, as long as we keep it all respectful. Okay, my wonderful subscribers and listeners, we have reached the point where I ask you to take care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.